Hey everybody, this is a quick tutorial on a few important things that would be helpful to just have a reference of as we begin our final draft for our layered cardboard artwork that we will be laser cutting. And so I'm going to start by reminding everybody how to convert a raster image into a vector image. And so I've already actually searched for an image. I'm going to just hit Control V and I'm going to paste it in my artboard. And quick note about cropping images. This is not perfectly cropped yet. This crop image function under the quick actions will show up as long as you do it before doing the image trace tool. So before doing anything, I actually want to crop this. And so remember, we want to crop it so that there's no dead white space. And so I'm going to drag it into the spots that would really kind of make sense. I'll bring it down there. And I'll also bring the top down a little bit. Hit enter. Now we have our cropped image. Now I can do the image trace tool to begin the process of converting it to a vector. And as I've said in class, there are multiple options here. These are kind of all preset options. Oftentimes default works just fine. And so for this image, I'm going to try default. That looks fine to me. It looks like a mountain range. We're not done yet. A lot of people are missing this last step. If you just hit expand, it will maintain the white background, and that's not necessarily bad. There's a way to delete it after the fact, but if you click this little window, it'll pull up all of the advanced options. Now your window may look like this to start, and you just have to expand the advanced options to see the rest. You want to click this little checkbox here that says ignore white, and what that's going to do is knock out any white backdrop. After you select that, you'll hit expand. You can close the image trace window. And you'll notice you see this faint blue line here around the mountain. That's because there is no backdrop. If I were to make it a different color, something would show through. This is a translucent background. Now I'm going to drag this into the corner and I'm going to resize it to cover the whole width of the artboard. I'm going to hold down Shift as I do that so that it maintains the scale. Notice it snaps into place there. And there we have a mountain range. Okay, I'm actually going to scoot it up, right? Because you want to kind of think in terms of a horizon line. So let's say that is our mountain range, and maybe there's going to be something in the foreground, but for now we're just going to focus on this one layer. Okay, I want to make my mountains a different color. So under fill, let's say I want to make them brown. Great, there's my mountain range. Now the other thing that's going to be helpful to do when you actually go to laser cut this shadow or the silhouette is a border, like I've been talking about in class. And so I'm going to show you a process to create a border. The first step is to simply on the same layer, and actually before I forget, let's name this layer. We're going to just call it Mountain 1. So on the same layer, we're going to draw a square. Now this is my square tool, but it shows, I'm sorry, that's not my square tool. The square tool is over here, but it's showing an ellipse because I used that last. So rectangle tool, we're going to create a square that is 12 by 12 inches. Now remember, if it's not exact, you want to check over here that the X is 6 inches, Y is 6 inches, and the width and height are 12 by 12. That one actually snapped into place perfectly. I'm going to click on the rectangle tool one more time, and rather than draw this one, I'm going to select 11.5 by 11.5 inches. I'm going to hit OK. And now this one is not centered. Okay, so up here under X and Y positions, we will change them both to 6, and now it is perfectly centered. Now I'm going to hit the shortcut V, which is the same thing as selecting the selection tool. I'm going to click out of that, so nothing's selected, and then I'm going to actually highlight both shapes. And in order to create shapes out of these squares, I'm going to use what's called the shape builder. Shift M is the shortcut. You can also come over here and click it over there. So you can click Shift M, or you can click it over here on the side. I'm now in the shape builder. You'll notice as I hover over the shapes, they are highlighted. I want to create separately two different shapes. So I'm going to drag my mouse along the border. Now you want to be careful not to drag it into the other square, otherwise it will combine those two shapes. I want to create two separate shapes. So I'm clicking and holding my mouse, dragging it in each shape. So I just created two shapes. I'm going to hit V again so that I have my selection tool. I'm going to click out of it because I don't want to select both. Now I select the inside square, hit the delete key, and now there is our border. This is helpful for lining up our final piece of artwork. Our mountain range is attached to it. Notice there's this white space down here. So the last thing we want to do, or one of the last things we want to do, is actually draw a square or a rectangle that fills that space. So because otherwise the laser cutter is going to have to cut that space. Now selecting V again for the selection tool. Now it's solid. However, if you notice, there's multiple shapes. There's this shape in here, there's this rectangle, and then we also have this border. For laser cutting purposes, we want all of that to be one shape. So again, I'm going to hit Shift M for the shape builder. And I am going, sorry, I forgot. Before you use the shape builder, you actually have to select any potential shapes that you want to include in your shape builder. So now I hit Shift M. And I actually want to select everything. So I'm going to, in this case, I am going to drag my mouse through every single shape. And you'll see if you miss anything, it won't be highlighted. There's still this little corner here. That looks about right, like everything. I hit V. Okay, there we go. Now it is all one shape. I accidentally moved it, so I'm going to undo that real quick. But now it's all one shape. If I click on it, I don't see blue lines all over the place. I just see those blue lines. The last thing that is going to be helpful is to convert this to an outline, so you can actually take away any fill, and this is only for laser cutting purposes. You're going to take away the fill, take away the fill, and you're going to add a stroke color, just make a black line. And it's really important that you make the thickness 0.001, enter, and you'll see a very faint outline, and now the Epilog laser will recognize these lines as a cut. So we'd put a piece of cardboard in there and we could actually physically cut this out. All right, thank you guys for listening. I hope this helps.